Alright, YouTube. The date is April 9th, 2026, and the project is a 2018 Subaru Forester AC overhaul. The videos I post are high level only. My channel, just to be clear, is not monetized. I don't make anything off these. The only time I make videos are when I tackle a project that there was really nothing out there and I had to figure a lot of it out on my own, and this is one of those projects. So this is going to be a real quick high level overview of what I encountered and how I completed the job and how I chose to move forward. There's nothing too spectacular in the engine bay. I needed to replace the AC compressor because that had failed. I had equalized pressure on the high and low side while the compressor was running, and there was a ticking noise. When I started tearing down, I saw glitter in the oil, so that was a clear indication that everything needed to be flushed and certain components needed to be replaced. I decided to replace everything because I saw glitter as far back as the TXV, which is right back there, and the Evaporator, which is right behind the firewall, obviously. So I did everything. So not going to cover too much in the engine bay. It's pretty obvious. Hoses to the condenser, hoses to the expansion valve. The only thing I am going to talk about is there's two bolts on the bottom of the condenser that attach to the radiator. Be careful with those. I did actually have to drain my coolant and remove the radiator because one of those broke off. So be very careful with those. And I would, if they're tight, I would say don't even try and remove them. Pull the radiator out, because this is a very cheap radiator, cheap plastic, and if you turn too hard and the bolt itself doesn't break, then you're actually gonna cause a leak in the radiator. So I would definitely, if there's any question, I would pull the radiator just so you can work on it on a bench and have a little more confidence. So the main thing is again, two bolts on the bottom. You'll see where they are when you get your new condenser. Coming around here, this is the main thing I wanted to convey in this video, because it's very difficult to get any kind of content out there that show how to remove a evaporator. So this evaporator comes out pretty easily, as long as you know where to look for the screws. So I'm going to go through step by step all the junk I have in the back here. So getting the glove box out. First of all, the glove box, that's easy to get out. Then the bracket that the glove box attaches to, that's easy to get out. Very obvious where the screws are. This thing comes out with several more bolts and nuts right here. You can see exactly, these are the fasteners you need to remove to get this out. I'll show you this piece in a second. So this is the most confusing part about this. This piece right here goes up in there, and several of the screws are easy and looking you right in the face, and some of them are not. Okay, so I had to back up there. Once you get the blower unit out, you're going to be looking at this thing. You can see the screws on the side, 1, 2. Now this here, this is where there's really no content out there. When this is mounted up in place, and I am not going to be able to show it, it's going to cover the evaporator right there. This piece right here, you cannot see it. You don't even know what's going on. I found a video out there. It's not done in English, and I saw the guy pointing at this and rubbing his finger on it. And what I, again, no English, but what I took that to mean was feel for this little curl. And that's exactly what I did. I stuck my finger behind this box. I felt for the curl. I stuck a screwdriver. You're going to need a long screwdriver. I used something like this, and I put a wrench on the end of it, and I was able to get that screw out. So feel for that curl. That's the hardest part of this. The other difficult part is there's a spring clip. You can see that spring clip right there. That you can see, but you have to know where to look for it. That spring clip sits right here. It hooks on the inside of this. So it's back there. You can barely see it. You can stick a screwdriver in this way and you can pop it off. And the other side of that spring clip is right there. I rotate this around. Yeah, it sits right on that is the other side of that. That mates up there. So there's one other thing I want to go over here. Okay, so that spring clip is not as easy to see when it's partially assembled as I thought. So I just have that thing loosely tucked in there. There's no screws in it yet. But looking straight at it, you come in, get your head down and underneath, and that spring clip holds that piece together right there. So look for that wire mold, exposed wires, and the spring clip goes right there. It's going to be challenging to get it back in. It was easy to get it back out. And now that this is back up in place, this was the other piece I wanted to show. This will be on top of that. You have to manipulate this and get it out. It's flexible enough that it will come out, but you do have to kind of manhandle it a little bit, so that's a little bit of a challenge. Okay, and so moving on from there, I won't be able to show this obviously, but because I already have this whole system vacuumed down, but you'll remove these two hex bolts there. You would have to have the TXV and lines on the inside removed. This piece comes out, and then the evaporator will slide right out of here. So it's very easy to get it out once you get to this point. As far as this goes, I spent some time screwing around with trying to get this connector right here off. It turns out this whole module comes off. And it's not clear to me how I actually got it off. I'll show that in a few minutes. The only other thing that was a challenge is this thing right here. This slides onto a post. It sits upright once this is in place. And it slides onto a post, and I was wiggling it and I was sticking a screwdriver in that slot on the top side. It turns out that there is a tab on the bottom side. If you see right down in there, that's the tab you're looking for. So you want to get a screwdriver on the bottom side, push that in, and then that will pop off, because you can't get the fan assembly out without getting all these disconnected. So the only other thing I have to cover is how to get this on and off, so stand by. Okay, and as I'm putting this back together, I'm just going to show how I was able to get at that screw up top. You can see I got a long bit there. It's at a slight angle, so it's not even biting the screw right where it needs to. But again, you're going to feel for that little curl. You're going to slide it in there. You might have to take it in and out a few times. I got it on the first try, and it went in its hole, and I was able to feel its tightness. Now, as far as the clip goes, I've got the clip in my hand right here. There's two sides to this clip, and I'm holding it in the orientation it has to go in, and it goes basically straight up as I'm holding it right there. So I'm going to put the clip in. I'm going to pause this, I'm going to put the clip in, and I'll show it in place. Okay, and here's the clip in place. Down and under, and you get the clip right there. So the hook goes to the back towards the center of the car, and that little side with the curl goes towards the door, passenger side door. Okay, and that upper piece of plastic that I mentioned before, I did just get that in there. You see how when it's in place properly, it actually slides back and forth. You got two screws. You got one there, and you got one in the back. I'm not going to pull this back out, because this was actually the hardest part of reassembling. I just fought with this for about 6 or 7 minutes. There's a channel that this has to go into. The channel's on the back side. You want to look for that. You can feel the channel on this piece and also around the back. It goes around that little loop I was telling you before. You got to stick the screwdriver in. So this piece, as tight as it is back there, the plastic has to go around that little loop that you look for to put the screw in. So you got to get that around there. I actually had to flex the plastic by pushing it back. So you're going to have to look at that. It's easy to figure out when you're looking at it. Look for the channel and make sure that that back edge goes around that loop that you stuck the screwdriver in. And after screwing around for a little while, you will be able to get it. Okay, and now I have the blower back up in place. Bolts in the corner. There's one nut there. There's a nut. There's one nut up in there. I needed a long extension and an elbow on that. Very hard to get to. Down here, there's another nut. And then over here is a bolt, all 10 millimeter. So that removes the whole blower, and when you know where they are, it's very easy to get out. I want to circle back to how to get this off, because you got to unplug a lot of you have to unplug a lot of connectors, and you have to get this whole thing off, because you just have to get this whole thing off. Now you see there's two tabs. Better angle here. These two tabs that thing slides onto. I don't know why it was so hard for me to figure that out the first time, but you got to look for those two tabs slide into those two slots, and you can see these two little tabs there and there. You squeeze those, the whole thing slides off. And like I said before, this thing, pry from that side, which is the bottom. Prying from the top side doesn't do anything. And this thing sits right on here. Pull it down and that snaps in. So you obviously can't get that's a challenge, because you have to get that off to actually remove this whole housing. So get that off, get this whole thing off, and that'll come out. And then the rest, this whole thing can be pulled apart in probably half hour, 45 minutes. It's not that bad to get at. That's why I chose to do the evaporator. So I'm going to continue this. I think there's one more thing I want to show, and then we'll wrap this up. And one other thing I didn't discuss here is this module. I don't know what that is. You can see that bracket that goes up to that bolt in the back. This was one of those components laying in the trunk. I just didn't mention it. So you got that one up on the top and that one bolt down on the bottom. And I have one left over. Hopefully I find that as this wraps up. Okay, and the last thing I wanted to show, putting this glove box enclosure back in. There is one confusing screw right there that you have to get to. It is under this piece of trim. This piece of trim pops off with just those tabs, so you can just pry on that very carefully from the edge, and that will come out. You do have to take this piece off, because this piece also snaps in, and that holds on right there. So without taking this out, that can't come out. So pop this off, pop this piece of trim off, and then you can take this whole thing down. So I got this all back together. I missed two fasteners. If anybody does this job and can tell me where those fasteners are, leave me a comment. So I'm going to wrap this up. That was basically the main thing, to show how the evaporator comes out, because again, there wasn't a lot of videos on how to do that that were in English anyway. My video is terrible. I apologize for the shaky camera, but like I said in the beginning, I don't get paid for these videos. My channel is too small to monetize, so I just post content when I have to figure something out on my own that doesn't seem to be out there. So that's what this is, and I hope it helps somebody. So thanks for watching.